Is being China's ally really beneficial to the Philippines? Well, economically, it may not be what the Philippine president expected. A number of countries are said to benefit from the ongoing trade war, and it was mentioned that the Philippines is one of them. However, are these effects going to last, or are they just short-lived? And do Filipinos really have nothing to worry about? In the previous article, I went over the positive effects of the trade war between China and the US on the Philippine economy. Today, I'll be exploring the opposite side. This is SpeakUP. Let's look into the issues surrounding the effects of the trade war. Before President Dutelte rose to power due to his landslide win in the May 2016 elections, he promised big changes for the country. True to his words, he has changed a number of things since he assumed the position of president. And one of those things is turning to China while almost cutting ties with the country's former top ally, the US. When the Philippines won the arbitration case filed at The Hague and was awarded exclusive sovereign rights over the South China Sea 2 years ago, many expected the president to enforce its acquired power in the disputed sea. Surprisingly, President Duterte did the opposite when he refused to wield the ruling and instead chose to form an alliance with China's President Xi Jinping. Just months after he was sworn into office, he went to China for a 4-day state visit and came back home with billions worth of deals which included business contracts, public financing agreements, and soft loans for development projects. He probably thought he would rather secure business deals with China than entertain the former US President Barack Obama's interference with the ongoing drug war at the time. However, his choice might be heading south after current US President Donald Trump declared a trade war against China, resulting to economic declines on both countries. The question is there a possibility the Philippines becomes one of the collateral damages in this war? There could be two problems that will come out of the war. One of them is the possibly negative effects of the rapid downturn in China's economic growth on its neighboring countries. The demand for exports is declining together with manufacturing activity. Signals of slowing output, decreasing factory prices, and a very weak business confidence showed in May. China's GDP is already at an all-time low, and it is expected to fall further if Trump imposes tariffs on all Chinese goods, as he had repeatedly threatened. The decline has already hit proxy economies in Asia. Though some economies in Southeast Asia might benefit from this war, experts warned that it might only be short-lived, as a shift to trade protectionism wouldn't be good for the global economy. That's because even with the redirection of production to a number of countries in Asia, if exports worldwide continue to decline, the risk of a global economic slowdown becomes higher. That might be bad news to the Philippine economy. The other problem is on the employment in the country, which hasn't been addressed properly. The Philippine economy has been growing fast under Duterte. GDP annual growth reached above 7% in 2017, before gradually dropping to 6.2% in 2018. The trouble is that the boom hasn't created that many jobs compared to previous administrations. That's according to a recent study by a research group. During former President Benigno Aquino's term, he has managed to turn the government to one that has transparency, accountability, and integrity, and was able to improve the country's ranking in the 2016 Corruption Perceptions Index. He fought against corruption and used taxes efficiently on what the citizens really need, and focused on social services, health, and education. This is to enhance and empower the country's human capital. In 2012, the Philippines recorded one of its strongest years for growth. The first quarter GDP of 2013 recorded at 7.8%. It was more than what people expected. President Duterte, on the other hand, took another direction and let the military dominate government policy directions. One party list representative said the Duterte administration failed in 2018. He added that the government's policies in taxation resulted to high inflation rates which made the poor suffer. Another party list representative said the government hasn't resolved problems such as unemployment and poverty, even as the government claimed that the economy grew. Because of Duterte's pro-China policy, a lot of Chinese workers were also allowed in the country. Preliminary results of a labor force survey conducted this year reveal that a size of the labor force, Filipinos 15 years and older, in January was approximately 43.659 million out of the 72.524 million. The participation rate is lower than that of last year. A Filipino economist noted that the lower participation rate in January could be a signal that some people looked for jobs overseas instead of applying for work locally. While focusing on building better infrastructures is also crucial, the government should also look into other concerns like policies on investment and taxation and improve them to welcome creation of more businesses and jobs. Moreover, the government should encourage the citizens to stay in the country to work and not go abroad because the Philippines needs the best from its own people. Hospitals, schools, or any other fields should not be experiencing understaffing because they should have more than enough people. Why do Filipinos choose to work abroad instead of staying in the country with their families? Well, that's because they know that in the Philippines, they can't have the same income and they can't enjoy the same benefits that they will be given if they work abroad. The labor sector should be empowered better to solve the country's economic woes, and instead of encouraging the citizens to leave the country, the government should work harder to come up with more ways to resolve the continuing brain drain in the Philippines. According to an article in Esquire, a 2019 report revealed that while the Philippines ranked high in growing talent and global knowledge skills, it ranked very low in retaining talent. This just means that the country is good at developing talent only to let others benefit from it. China's generosity in granting the Philippines these said opportunities shouldn't be the sole driving force to reboot the country's economy, even though it undeniably helps countries solve difficulties in their economies. It's about time the country utilize its human resources more efficiently by upgrading them to be more competitive and stop watching other countries on the sidelines as they rise before its eyes. It can honestly be a longer process that will most probably encounter failure, but it might also work in the long run. It could also be time for the Philippines to really unite and focus on continuing programs that have proven effective, like the former Philippine President Benigno Aquino's reforms during his term, which resulted to one of the country's strongest years for GDP growth. The government should not depend on China's largesse, especially now that the Philippines still has an unresolved sea dispute with them. This never-ending issue has already created or worsened conflicts and divides within our very own government. With Trump waging the war against China, something that the Philippines didn't foresee, there have been significant changes in the country's growth in the past several months, a drop to a 4-year low of 5.6%. Has the president really wasted the former administration's reform drive? Based on the IMF's estimates for 2019, the Philippines' income is still quite far from a number of developing countries' income. If nothing much is done to raise the country's income, we should probably start worrying about getting stuck at this level. Amid the trade war issue between the US and China, President Duterte might really have reason to be concerned. This should put his focus more on the country's real economic situation. Despite these, the country also still has a reason to celebrate as the government is pushing for the building of infrastructures. However, the momentum will be fraught if it isn't sustained. Even though the amount of foreign direct investments are flowing into the country, it won't be enough to reach targets if the country still suffers from the same issues. For one, we still have excessive bureaucracy which won't do any good in attracting investors. A much-needed upgrade is in order not only for the country's infrastructures but also for its foreign capital, as well as its very own human capital. The citizens can just hope for a better economy during the president's last 3 years. It may be better to take our focus to other countries besides China to help us with the economic thrust we need. Because with all the issues surrounding this unexpected alliance, is it really worth risking the country's economy too? This is the weekly trending news. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.